Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to the latest narration in the web series The Nature of Predators Book 2. If you're new to this series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 53. Memory Transcription Subject, Tassie, by some Alien Liaison. Date, Standardized Human Time, September 26, 2160. Instead of getting into the meat of the engagement, Hanzo prattled on about boring minutiae, analyzing and comparing engine capabilities, along with his best guess at their design, and AI pathing algorithms. While I was certain that warship design said a lot about a species, it hardly was my favorite subject. The Bison generals would be much more eager to study the finer details. I was almost relieved to see a call request from Ambassador Loxel, despite the fact that we didn't have a literature session planned today. It was an excuse to step away from my hostile atmosphere in this forum, and the eruption I knew was coming when the SC reached the part where the Orcs arrived. As I stepped out into the hallway to check whether Loxel, and perhaps by extension Ivrana, had an issue, my mind wandered once more to the theory of the original Tinzas inhabitants being behind these attacks. I also knew the next step in forging an alliance would be getting the Sifkits to agree to partner with the Orcs. No small task. I thought Bisons had been making surprising amounts of progress with the Grand Herd, getting them to collaborate in shipbuilding rather than hiding away in Nelman. This was all while the Tsia were pushing back two nations and waging massive naval contests on our home world. If we could pacify our warring states, that likely would put the alien refugees at more ease about the safety of living on our planet. This is so much going on, and the Sifkits are the heart of it all. We want them on our side. I don't want to use Loxel, though. He might be in dire need of medication, but I think at his core he's quite lonely. It'll play well with the SC to win over the Grand Herd, but I'm not going to do that by convincing the Funny Bunny that predators definitely can't be trusted. Still, there was a certain way that things needed to be framed to persuade Loxel of anything. I recoiled as the Sifkit appeared on my screen with a pile of hundreds of orange fruits lying around on the floor behind him. The ambassador's muzzle was colored orange, and my mood shifted to consternation as I saw his signature manic look. "This spare carnival for you. You can never sample the potentous car citrus. I bid the forever walking beasts avaunt if they do not furnish these offerings upon me betimes. No, they make me swear in exchange to calm as I dispraise their pitiful stage efforts," Loxel rambled, swinging his forepaws over his head triumphantly. "Inspiration has flowed into my bosom, as soon sampling the fruity Orcs. I want more. I'll sing for more merrymaking at my execution, for but a meager bite. Bid me to sing now, Tassie, for I have found the tree of salvation." I gawked at the Sifkit. "What? Whoa, please don't sing, but just back up. Are you saying you made the humans at the Pelton base give you offerings of these fruits? This is why you called me during an SC meeting?" "Fruits, mandarin oranges. The plant has a name. The loathly beasts and I are getting along. Now, they think me a Lurdan. Then I am no Silist. Muoga, my species. I overlap their impudence, so the oranges may overbrim. You, my compeer, must aggrandize the herd and bring the oranges far and wide. Gramercy, you must grok Sifkits in our finest communion. You must. We'll give you any guerdon." "Loxel, you've gotten worse. I told you to use less play words in conversation, and I swear that you ratcheted it up instead. You're growing less understandable by the minute." "I'm glad you noticed." I narrowed my eyes at the Sifkit. "You're doing it on purpose." "Obviously. The strenuous to improve upon perfection, but I am poetic. I want to be buried as Loxel the poet, for that is I. Don't be purblind, Tassie. You are my protege. You've been imbued with a great purpose to bring me oranges today and to bedazzle them with your utterances later. You must embrace my mantle. Your words must have striking power beyond that of the average gnunks." I sighed. "I doubt anyone can emulate your speaking style, Loxel. It's, singular." "Don't be slabberdigalian. You can do it. Start with dramatic interjections. Move your flippers more. Master the art of placing your beak inches from others' faces. Practice some swooning and yell at yourself in the mirror before you retire at night. Very simple exercises. You'll be on your way in no time. I'm not going to. Yes, you are. This is not a discussion. By the way, do you want to hear my poem to oranges? No, I don't. What is it you want, Loxel? The Sifkit cleared his throat. Import oranges from Earth to Evrana, so the Grand Her can know their glory. You have my permission to give the simians anything. Honestly, anything. I wrote up a requisition request. Could you forward it on behalf of the Sifkits and bring the shipments to your shores? I was so flabbergasted that the ambassador had called me about importing human fruit to Evrana that I blankly went along with it. Okay, we can pass the request of yours to Earth. What did you write exactly? Loxel cleared his throat, seeming to read off the cue cards by the camera. Did he have those for other lines he spewed? O scholars of the Sifkit saviors, hear my orison for a mote of this rapturous fruit. Verily this sapid, commenstable wonder is a meed for our oppression. Languishing in the bison's cattle pens, earth's paradoxical delights know no bourne, as I hold this fardel of oranges in my paws. Shrive me for sampling their cursed fruit, citrus vouchsafed by these primate wastrels, and replenished daily withal. Amain they ferry the orange element, treasures that must be secured for the behoof of the grand herd. That's your requisition request. Is that just a poem that I didn't want to hear? And are you making up words? Yes, and no. I only ever made up one word, belly nigh. It means about to be eaten, like you're soon to be in the beast's stomach. I assure you that it appears at least once in all of my plays, because it is my legacy. Of all my hopes and dreams ride on that word, joining the lexicon. Loxel, why don't you let me vocalize your request for oranges for you in normal words? No, Sifkits can speak for ourselves. Use our words, my words. Do not muzzle me so cruelly. He'll never know if I don't use his unintelligible poem. Just say what he wants to hear so that you can escape this call. You're right, Loxel. It's your request, so I'll use your words, I agreed. The Sifkit's ears parked up straight. Excellent, now recite them back to me, so that I can ascertain if you committed them to memory. And culture delivery? Absolutely not. Goodbye, Loxel. I disconnected from the call and turned off my holopad as the Sifkit immediately tried to redial my contact. Despite how much I'd been dreading the rest of the Sapien Coalition's proceedings, it was now a relief to return to the halls alongside Zok and Naltor. Loxel had a way of striking the fear of hers into everyone he encountered. My timing seemed impeccable, with the delegation having progressed to the moment where the human Yodel line met the rival drones in combat. Scattered hit-and-run tactics and defense stations, complete with missiles and lasers, had whittled down the enemy numbers by a few thousand. It hadn't been for the fortified beatdown that we received at Tinzas. The SC were outgunned, with only stray assets left in Tulsk's system to ward off the worst. The stations being used in the Fossil's defense were originally designed to keep a watchful eye on them, ensuring that the natives didn't pull any stunts or mount an escapade. Onza was discussing how lasers were ineffectual against liquid armor, similar to the particle beams. Heat dissipation rendered several variants of weapons obsolete, at least unless that layer of protection was burned away faster than it could be replenished. The hostiles crested into the system, still boasting a ship count of 6 digits strong. The SC drones anticipated an initial volley of particle beams coming their way, and had magnetic shielding up to neutralize them. Evenly matched foes locked onto a dogfight, except the enemy had numbers and were feathers away from the planet. That visual of Kessler Cage on Tulsk is staggering, with just how many tiny pieces of rock were encircling it, billions of fragments forming a cage for the people below, blocking them from the stars. What if the SC turned on us and did that to Evrana? Simulations up to this point weren't looking to be in our favor, but a tactical retreat would do more harm than good, Hanzo stated. We needed to engage them and learn more about them. You can't make an antidote without studying the disease you're targeting. Military intelligence has learned a great deal, albeit not enough about their motives and endgame. The Iftani ambassador piped up. It seems plain to me that they wish to destroy the Federation. All we need to do is communicate that we aren't them. That is our assumption, yes, but we don't know that they'll lay down their arms just because the conspiracy has fallen. One of my conclusions from this fight is that we must acquire intelligence on who we're up against. I'll discuss this more, but after finishing our analysis. For now, we'll look at the final line of defense, another one of humanity's toys that have been reinvented for the stars. Mines. Our foes had wisened up to the idea that invisible hazards might be waiting in front of them, so the munitions swept across their flight path, brute forcing their way forward. The onboard AI clearly could identify patterns and extrapolate them to predict our future actions. However, the humans' cleverness was hiding their minds among select rocks in the Kessler cage. As the enemy pressed into orbital range, they found themselves riddled with shrapnel and explosive damage, and those billions of rocks were too many to clear with any expediency. The best fortifications of all was one meant to keep the fossil occupants in. UN ships kept back to avoid debris flying in all directions, and had set up physical barricades to park their vessels behind. The Yotel, meanwhile, were deploying clouds of smoke to obscure sensors and visual targeting. Hanzo excitedly explained how they wanted the hostiles to have to guess where the vessels were. Technocracy ships were equipped with external sensors, from in-system and allied feedback, to guide their targeting with precision. Missiles zipped through the smoke, blowing up the mysterious assailants' noses. Hostile drones took a flurry of losses, with mines ripping open their bellies and explosives barreling through the offensive line. Over 10,000 foe indicators blinked off the sensors readout in an instant. It was a significant punch that we'd been trying to score since Tanzas. However, the enemy wouldn't just sit back and let their ships be cut down unchallenged. Their weaponry revved to life, firing a few antimatter bombs brought for Tulsk in the Kessler cage. The city-leveling explosion strikes anywhere near SE vessel would pack a devastating blow, and a collision with something was virtually inevitable, with billions of rocks entombing the world. Supersonic fragments hurtled through UN barricades and vessels alike, crumpling whatever metal they touched. Thousands of our own craft were felled like trees harvested from a forest. The antimatter blast disintegrated any ship unlucky enough to be caught in its direct wake, but the planet remained unharmed. Some of the Kessler debris careened into the atmosphere, yet that would burn up long before it struck the ground. I'd like to linger on the defensive efficacy of the Kessler cage. Well, I doubt we'd want to lock ourselves in our homeworld. They got in the way of a great many bombs, and of the enemy drones flying closer. It might have saved Fossil Planet more than the Arx's arrival, the Yotel remarked. The technocracy believes that we should capitalize on this idea and perhaps invest in a similar, ubiquitous planetary defense of our worlds, making them more resistant to orbital bombardment, like Tusk. The Crocodile ambassador looked displeased. Your idea to defend Ishtal and any other SE planets that might come under fire is to deploy Kessler cages. It's to deploy some kind of cage that can be retracted or moved at will. Take the idea of this useful technology from Tusk and turn it into something less immutable. It's like the barriers we place in front of our ships to get in the way of fire, just on a planetary scale. It could be useful. Secretary General Keinfer tilted her head and thought, being able to lock down Earth if it came under attack. I do like the idea of an extra layer of defense, quite literally. Engineering megastructures would take a long time, however. We couldn't build it in time to meet immediate attacks from our opponents. Of course, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't start buffing our defenses at once. Who knows how long this war could rage on, assuming the two sides remained deadlocked. At any rate, as we are all aware, not even the Kessler cage was a perfect defense. My heart felt a bit heavy as a series of coordinated enemy missiles struck the debris field in quick succession. These munitions tore a gash in the Kessler cage, paving the way for antimatter bombs to sail in. The United Nations spaceships pivoted, attempted to shoot the next warheads, and diced up several with particle beams. However, the hostile drones zeroed in on human vessels that were focused on stopping the bombs, bombarding them with enough ordnance to decimate a truckload of spaceships. A few explosives bound for Tulsk slipped through the net, with the respective UN craft being taken out before they could counter them. One mushroom cloud appeared on Onza's recreation, then another, then several more after that. The final tally of bombs that hit in this first breach was 14. Even with evacuations having occurred, there were still billions staying on the planet below. The death toll must be in the tens of millions, at a conservative estimate. Numbers were still coming in from Tusk, so that wasn't something we'd locked down with certainty. The SE fleets focused on being pulled in too many directions. They were outgunned and with not enough tricks up their sleeves. The outlook had been bleak and hopeless, with the simulated odds falling to near zero as the numerical imbalance grew. That was the moment when 45,000 warp signatures appeared in Onza's feed, slipping through the channel only Sapient Coalition knew about. It appears the Arxor Collective expedition made a detour from their course to Apep. Their newly minted vessels came into the fray with guns blazing and tore into the enemy from behind. Onza heaved a weary sigh, pinning his earbacks. This came as a shock to all of us, though we couldn't afford to turn away their help. The technocracy had fought alongside them before, and the ambush, our foes didn't know what hit them. 45,000 guns firing in harmony as the Arxor banner was dragged into battle. The Thafki ambassador bared his teeth. You almost sound excited, Yodel. It saved our asses. Assuming you want a strategic review, that's self-evident. If our allies won't risk their own ships, then how can you complain that it is the Greys putting their hides in the line? It benefits everyone. No, the real issue is that someone here leaked FTL backdoor to them, because how else would they know? That group should come forward. It was us. Before the Thafki could point at my people, General Nalto stood up calmly. The Salmers must have had ice in his veins with how leisurely that declaration was. No wonder his subspecies was suited to Arctic climates. Since bisons were accused of contacting the Arxor anyway, we decided to reach out to them. They were already loose, so we tried to turn their army towards a good purpose. A good purpose? The Arxor? Are you fecking joking? And you did it behind all of our backs. We should never let you join us. With all due respect to the Thafki, Tusk is alive because of us. Bisons have to do the best with what we have, because we're no more welcome here than the humans were in the Federation. My people agree with the Xerillians on saving lives. We only want to help whoever we can. Today we saw Fossil, Arxor, and SC members working together, and that was because of us. The galaxy can heal through moments like these. On Onza's display, Arxor vessels ravaged through hostile forces, while the United Nations decided to confound the situation with their own aggression. As Tusk was still smoldering from freshly detonated bombs, the humans enacted a strategy I believe was planned for their final stand. They began ramming PARs anywhere with a clear shot at the Kessler cage, straight into hostiles that had bombs primed or were trying to pivot towards the Arxor. Kaiser's fleet was eager to get up close, with kinetics and plasma raking over hostile lines. The simple tag teaming turned the tide with decisiveness, ambushing our opponents in a way they hadn't predicted. Like old friends who still remembered each other's ways, the Yodel popped off a slew of plasma beams, mini missiles, and nanodrones. Everything was flying at the attackers in one single moment, terminating tens of thousands in the blink of an eye. As casualties piled up, the effect only quickened. Our alliance was unrelenting, honing every bit of weaponry we had. Our defensive line had been reduced to about half of their original numbers, but with the Arxor boosting their count, we already had the numerical advantage. Nalton was correct that Tusk was only alive because we'd wrangled Arxor aid. I was proud of that fact, realizing how much worse the death toll could have been. The planet likely wouldn't exist at all without our meddling. Chalzen, the Xerillian ambassador, stood with uncertainty. That was a bold decision, General Neltor. The results speak for themselves, a complete turnaround, and it also gives all of you a chance to see the Arxor's capabilities. We believe it's better that they're on our side, and that we keep their vengeance on behalf of the Osers very focused, Naltor responded. Bisons will always have an open-door policy for anyone who'll speak to us, and for anyone who needs our aid, as rescue efforts begin. We would like to take fossil refugees, many of Tusk's residents displaced by these attacks. We're sending aid ships now. Despite all of Ivana's problems, we won't turn a blind eye to any sapiens suffering. I couldn't have said it better. The Xerillian hospital ships were waiting outside the system and have already arrived to rescue Fossil. We can spread word of the program on Tusk and transport refugees to Evrana immediately. Cordia will chip in to take those in need as well.
Perhaps we can partner with the Zeridians on altruistic efforts, Nato commented shrewdly, seeming to have acquired a new target for his alliance of misfits. Whatever hatred SE members hold, and for valid reasons or not, we won't be a party to that. It is not who Bisims are.
Well, there are millions of fossil lives at stake. It is a positive sign that the Bisims are sympathetic to the victims.
Onzo looked perplexed that we outed our ties with the Arxor, but hastily attempted to cover for us, perhaps believing this was part of the plan to lobby for their lifted quarantine.
Since the stakes are so high, and the Greys' aid harvested victory from the fields of defeat, we can't turn away a free infusion of ships. Put Arxor hulls on the line instead of ours. I, for one, like it.
The Yodel gestured towards the end of the simulation, as the Arxor made easy pickings of the last enemies. Kaisel stomached a few losses, but the collective strategy didn't align with the measured tactics of the SC. The drones hadn't been ready for reckless abandon and an ambush. Tulsk had a few scars to show for the engagement, but standing with the reptilians, we'd won comfortably. I could see the human delegation had already given in on accepting Arxor aid, and were figuring out how to save face politically. The reluctance and dread in their binocular eyes said it all.
The collective have saved worlds before. We can always take another look at this after the war, when we have the luxury of being able to jail them without endangering lives, Keifer ventured. We need anything with a warp core fighting on our side. This isn't the time to be dealing with them.
Onzo pricked an ear in agreement.
The entire Orion arm is in danger, so our interests are aligned, if only for self-preservation. Tusk had many lessons, but it does bode well for planets where we can send more vessels to their defense. It also showed that this war could easily become a stalemate, and perhaps that'll force our enemy to the bargaining table. The reality is that we need information on who we're fighting to know how to contact them. However, they won't let us get close enough out in the open.
What are you saying? Speak plainly, the Dosa representative chittered.
I'm saying our first priority is to observe. Intelligence is going through the wreckage to study their ships. Anything that we can glean of their language, coding, and weaponry. We need to send a stealth ship into enemy territory to find manned vessel, and attempt to capture them via a boarding party. Since they won't talk to us, we kick in the front door and see exactly who we're dealing with.
I agree. SC military operatives can park a ship outside of frequented systems and wait for an isolated vessel to pass by, Keifer commented. Assuming they're lost a pep, it might be a way to get more intel on the Osas. They'll be here by Christmas.
Then it is settled. It'll be like exposing the culture and fossil conspiracy together all over again. Our strategy going forward must be to know our enemy, not to run hypotheticals. We must make logical decisions that give us the best odds of survival. And on that somber note, I believe this meeting is adjourned.
A flurry of thoughts raced through my head as General Nalto shot me a sly glance. All in all, news of our involvement with the Arxor had gone over without too much backlash, and the Zeridians had teamed up to bring fossil refugees to our home world. That last plan had gone even better than we'd hoped for, and granted us a potential new ally. One that would look at us fondly for our charitable optics. However, I found myself unsettled by the idea of what the Sapient Coalition stealth foray might uncover about our enemies. As much as I wanted to agree with Keifer's idea of it never being too late to stop talking, I wasn't sure it was possible to go back with the Sivkit Wanderers and now millions of fossil civilians having succumbed to our mysterious foes. We might learn very soon whether the original Sivkits of Tinzes were behind these Federation-targeted attacks. End of chapter. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.